Hola. We are talking about Portugal today, one of the last national finals of the season, and probably actually the last to air because it's on at like midnight. Festival de Canção. I'm aware that I'm gonna butcher the beautiful Portuguese language a lot in this video, but I'm the biggest Portugal stan going throughout the entire Eurovision career, so you might have to forgive me for that. I'm joined by Nathan, who's not quite on my level in terms of understanding how amazing Portugal is, but he's here to support, really.
Not quite on your level or totally opposite to your opinion?
I think they're the same thing, to be honest, dear. But yeah, we're going to talk about this amazing selection. I think it's possibly the strongest final lineup. I just think there's so much artistry, quality, and just gorgeousness. And every song is in Portuguese, which is it ticks all my boxes. And some potentially very strong entries could come out of this. There's two in particular that I'm very excited about. And some others that I still like great, but maybe not as competitive. So we're going to get straight into it. We have an 8-song selection, which is a nice tight pack. You had 2 semi-finals of 8 songs and 4 songs qualified. And what was different about this year of Festival de Canção is that instead of them doing the full voting like they usually would, like they did last year, they have not told us the points. So we don't know who's leading. We don't know if there's one clear leader or if there's like a pack of ones that are pulled away from the rest, or if it's very tight. We're going to find out on Saturday, which is extremely exciting, or probably Sunday morning for some of us. But I'm here for the ride. I mean, it's late night now. I've just kind of accepted that Festival de Canção is the kind of final that you watch in bed, just kind of like chilled and a bit distressed from the other national finals you've watched that day. Nathan, what are your overall thoughts of the selection this year?
My overall thoughts of the selection are they've binned 3 of the 5 good songs they had. And therefore, because they've binned 3 of the 5 good songs they had, maybe that's a bit far. They've binned 3 of the 6 good songs they had. We've been left blessed with 3 songs out of 8 in the national final that I think stand up as both winners of Festival de Canção and also contenders at Eurovision. I think there are 3 of these 8 songs that would qualify, and I think of those 3, I think at least 2 of them are left on the side of the board. But I am going to wave my flag right now and say that Mira's Copo de Gin, that was co-written by ESCXTRA, Blasted's Rebellion, and also Debio featuring Plus 351 with Seguera have all been absolutely wronged by the Portuguese. I am genuinely excited, and I never thought I'd say this, I'm genuinely excited to find out what the breakdown was, because Blasted would have absolutely sailed through a televote, I think. And I believe that the jury have probably done Seguera dirty in semi-final 2. So for me, I completely agree with what you introduced there, and by saying that this is a strong selection. I think what this selection offers is a grand variety from the kitchen sink at one end to something that's wholly modern and representative of Portuguese culture in 2020 at the other. That makes a great television show. So no matter what on Sunday night, like the entries or not like the entries, what we have been given is a fully blessed national final that represents all elements of Portugal, represents the absolute whack that you can get sometimes in a national final, but also the genuine quality that sails through. So that's my overview, I have to say.
Okay, that's very comprehensive. Thank you. I will agree that Mira and Dubio were both wronged. I would have put them in. They will be my personal final, but I think part of the problem was the semi-final split. I think Mira would have qualified if they were in semi-2. I just think the first semi-final was stacked full of songs that were kind of more popular. It's funny, at least in terms of views and traction. So it was kind of a case of we're going to lose some good songs. And I completely disagree about Rebellion. I think Blasted were a mess live, to be honest. I think the song just felt like completely flat on that tiny stage. I think Festival de Canção has a very specific energy. And so that song...
Why pick it? I genuinely mean this as an actual question. Is Festival de Canção, you are correct. Festival de Canção has a real feel to it and energy, a real close studio stage. So why, if you're RTP, pick Blasted when that you know they're not going to be able to do it justice on that stage? It's a waste.
They might have. I think it just didn't work live. They weren't to know based on the studio cut if it was going to work live, and we found out because it kind of fell flat. And I would stick by that. And I don't think it was Rob. I didn't like the song to begin with. I think it would have been a terrible entry. I think it would have non-qualified because it was messy.
I think it was top 10.
And I personally think Georgia's done a better job of what they're trying to do. You can throw tomato at me for saying that. I think
I will.
Georgia this year. We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we start doing our reviews, won't we? However, let's talk about the songs actually in the final because we've a lot about. I think it's fair to talk about the songs that don't make the final when a selection has some really strong songs.
Totally.
Other sections it's not quite justified, but here I think it is. But
yeah,
we have I'd say 8 great songs. I like all of them.
You have some very questionable taste then, because I'm going to start with. I'm going to start.
We're not going to go through all of them. Let's just. I think rather than kind of be negative, loving Portugal. I want to focus on the positive, and love is love. All about love here today. So we'd be remiss to ignore the fact that there is a single favourite who has been storming the views, much like Conan last year. So the big favourite is Barbara Tinoco with Passe Partout, and I think that it's likely to win because she's very popular, and judging off traction, the televote, I'm pretty sure Au Jardim and Telemovesh were the ones with the most views prior to the final. I think the next biggest competition is Elisa with Kudo Sentir. My Portuguese is shocking. I need to get lessons. Wow. Which is a really gorgeous ballad. And I think that's top of my Eurovision scoreboard, I believe. So I think it's popular with Eurovision fans. It's a very quintessential Portuguese ballad. However, this year, I don't think it's as much of a ballad fest as everyone's making out. But I don't think this year needs that song. And I'm happy for it to stay in Portugal and for me to continue to enjoy it for years to come. Whereas I think Passe Partout is adding something completely unique. It's adding the Frenchness that we crave. And it's doing that style better than Switzerland. And I say it as a fan of Switzerland's song. I just think that's, especially with the staging, it had this really explicitly referential staging to La La Land. It's even down to the yellow dress, her styling. And it was just so beautiful and so joyful. And I think Portugal could really have something with that song. However, that's my prediction straight up. I think Barbara's going to win. Potential upset being Elisa. But I think the song that they probably should pick, which is my number one, is actually Movimento, which is a banger and a half. And I think would be my favorite of this year if they picked it, because it's just so infectious and the staging is really dynamic despite it being a kind of standard band setup, and it would just add something kind of unique and some flavor to the contest, which I just think, and it feels like it represents Portuguese music, but also it has a very Brazilian sensibility to it, which I love. I've always been kind of obsessed with Brazil for most of my life. Yeah, I've just kind of let it all hang out there. But those are the kind of the 3 contenders. But I don't think Throws and the Shine have a chance there. So I think it's between Barbara and Elisa. However, I have noticed that Jimmy P has surprisingly got a lot of momentum.
There's no surprise. There's no surprise. It's really interesting you were talking about YouTube views, and actually while you were talking about that I googled it because I knew obviously with a week extra it's really hard to give it some quantity, but if I tell you that Jimmy P since Sunday, today we're filming this on a Wednesday, Jimmy P's had 60,000 views in 3 days, and Elisa with Meadow Sentir has had 100,000 in over a week now, week and a half. So it's incomparable. Jimmy P is at that level almost of Passepartout, where he is really coming. And I would suggest that Passepartout's, let me finish, I think Passepartout's views are very much Eurovision fan based. And I think there's a large number of those views have been Eurovision fans who have gone, that was as sweet as I expected it to be. To me, it doesn't scream Portuguese. Jimmy P is Absoneado is absolutely what should be sent by Portugal to represent them. It is a more modern, forward-thinking, fully fleshed Portuguese representation, beautifully written. There is something about it live. It's so enchanting to have 5 choral singers who, I am going to flag this, the choral singers sing in English. You might not even pick it up on track. You might not really pick it up live, but the choral singers are giving you, the international viewer, the clues that you need to smooth you through the Abençoado story that Jimmy P weaves. I think it's so genuinely moving to watch him go through the motions of Abençoado. Admittedly, it takes maybe 60 to 80 seconds to get going, but when it goes, it runs, and it runs like it's going to hit a brick wall. And I just think sometimes that's the act you have to send. You have to send the one that's going to push the boundaries in a year where people aren't pushing boundaries. So for me, it absolutely has to be Abençoado, but I totally love Movimiento as well. I know it's currently 3rd on the Eurovision scoreboard, behind Elisa and Barbara Tinoco, but I think it's a really nice entry, Movimiento, and I think it's got a very interesting draw in 5th, in between Elisa Rodriguez with Now Voltashmaish and Caddy with Disho, which is the only other finalist I love. I think Disho is a really authentically Portuguese kind of bossa nova style track, and I really feel that, every bit of that. So for me, those 3 entries, Abençoado, Movimiento, and Disho, are the 3 that represent Portuguese culture best, and also really make the viewer recognize that you're watching something Portugal, watching something that represents Portugal fully, but are also really professionally staged. They're all staged in really nice ways, I think, those 3 entries.
I'm impressed that you think Jimmy P will win a jury vote, or even come. I mean, I think, well, Conan's on the jury, so I think he'll put it maybe top.
The thing is, though,
I think you put Movimiento top. That seems like something he would do. But that's one juror. I personally would be delighted if Jimmy P won. I think that song was spectacular. I love it. Seeing it live was just like a really like a wow moment. I don't think it's. I'm so impressed that my headphones are falling off. I'm not convinced it would do very well. I think it will. And also, just to be petty for a second, as someone who had Portugal top of their list last year, for you to say I think countries should push the boundaries, but then to trash Conan last year is a bit interesting. Just to put that out there, I think Portugal always doing something different, and most of the time they get punished for it. So I would like them to send something that is a bit cheeky and a cutesy and do well for once. It'll be nice. That's from that perspective. That's why I would like them to send Movimiento or Passe Batu, because I think those 2 are the most competitive songs they have. Jimmy P is a risk that will probably not pay off.
You're right to throw me under the bus for my absolute derision of Conan Osiris. Absolutely you are. But for me, it wasn't accessible. I didn't get it. And that you're trying to communicate. And just...
You think Jimmy P is more accessible than Telenovelas was? There's no way.
I do.
No way.
I think
wow.
I think that it's... Because it sounds like something that you would hear on modern radio. It does sound like something that it's the kind of... it has that... I'm going to use, because I'm British, I'm going to use a cultural reference here, Stormzy, right? It sounds like something you would hear from Stormzy or Dave. It sounds like something that you are used to hearing in terms of a sound, in terms of a style, in terms of something with a real strong call for action, okay? And so for me, whereas Conan was loud and brash, for me, Movimiento is a lot more like Conan. And you're absolutely right, you probably could, if he's on the jury, score that very highly. It's a bit more messy, but I think what Movimiento does that Conan didn't is make it accessible. And that the key word is accessible. For me, Portugal's strongest entries are those that are inherently Portuguese, but are made accessible to a viewer, that it makes it feel like I've heard this before, or makes it feel like you aren't kind of shocked by what you're seeing. Shock factor does sometimes work. Look at Hatari, look at Lordi. For me, those authentically Portuguese, Flor de Lis and Vania Fernandes are my 2 accessible but totally obviously Portuguese entries that immediately spring to mind when I think of Portuguese entries I love. And it's in that bracket that I would love Abençoado, Movimiento, or Disho to go into.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. I'm saying, and I think Barbara's going to win. Nathan is not sane and thinks Jim P is going to storm it and it will qualify in Rotterdam,
Top 5.
I love to have what you're smoking.
Thanks.
If you could send it down to London, that would be great. Let us know what you think. Am I in the wrong by some for once? Is that a thing? I mean, actually, no. Let's be honest. I'm wrong about all my predictions. I've been terrible this year. I'm terrible every year. I can't predict for the life of me. So me doing this whole series has been a waste of time, really.
I think I'm 100 if it makes you feel any better.
I think I've gone up. I'm like in the 60s now, which is I've been That's it's pretty shocking. Anyway, so yeah, what do you think? It's Portugal, so who the hell knows? They might pick Caddy for the hell of it. And I'll be here for that because I think any of these songs would go in my top 10 straight away because I love Portugal. So yeah, we want to know what you think and be sure to like and subscribe. We'll have loads of content coming in the run up to Rotterdam. Follow us on socials at ESCXTRA across all platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're not on TikTok yet. But we'll be coming with some exciting things in the coming months in the run up to the contest. Thank you for watching. Remind me what good night is in Portuguese, please, Nathan. I don't want to butcher. Perfect. Okay. Bye.
Bye.